Coming out of Kevin.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking me to speak, and thank you for putting all of this together. You can see it took a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of effort to do that. That service is what keeps me clean. So, I guess I made a couple note cards here of some things. It's the God of my understanding shows up in the most mysterious ways, right? And I really want to come back and talk about some of that stuff. I can qualify myself as an addict as saying that one was too many, 1,000 was never enough. I chased myself around the United States, thinking that people, places, and things would help me with my addiction problem, my drug problem. I thought that if I could just get away from these people, that everything would be okay. And I grew up in the Midwest, and I took my addiction to California, to Texas, to Illinois, and somehow I ended up in Pennsylvania. And I'm grateful for getting clean out here. I've got to be around some wonderful people. NNA, one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. That's my story. That's my story. There were periods of abstinence when I would stop using, and for a short period of time, go to a detox, go to a rehab, whatever it was. But I would never commit to anything that was solution based. I found the program of Narcotics Anonymous in the early 2000s. I found it as a result of somebody's service work. I went into a sheriff's office looking for a homeless shelter because my parents had kicked myself and the hostage that I had at the time, out of the house. And so we took this Buick Century that had no back window in the middle of January, and we went about 45 minutes away seeking a homeless shelter, and we went into the sheriff's office, and they had this sign up on the side, and it had the little pull-off tabs, and I saw the sign that said "Drug Problem, We Can Help," and had this NA logo. So I pulled it. We went to the homeless shelter, and I told them my plan. I'm like, they said that they could help me, and they had a bed available for me, and I started going to meetings at that time. That was my introduction to Narcotics Anonymous. That was my introduction to a solution to my problem, right? My problem. It wasn't the drugs, our literature tells us this. It's not the drugs that made me an addict. It's my reaction to them, And when I use, I create unmanageability in my life. There's consequences, there's jails, there's institutions. Through some step work, I've got to see that the consequences happened before I even started using. The behaviors that I associated with it happened before I started using. So I want to go back just a little bit here and kind of lead up to when he asked me to speak and how the God of my understanding has worked in my life lately. So early June, I broke my arm. I broke my elbow. I shattered my elbow in 3 places. All right. I sprained my wrist, I sprained my forearm, and I sprained my shoulder. Right. I went in and finally got casted, and the doctor said, "Listen, I'm going to give you a painkiller, right?" And I said, "I don't want that." He says, "Listen, I'm going to give you something that's non-narcotic." And I said, "Okay." I said, "That's fine." And I looked at it, and I looked at the medication, and you can go back and do some research on it. And actually, a year before, it was a non-narcotic. It's called tramadol, right? And this year, they had made it a narcotic, right? Tramadol, right? So I called my sponsor up, and I'm like, "Listen, the doctor told me I'm going to need this pain medication. I said, I don't feel like I need it right now. I don't feel like I need it." He says, "Well, what did the doctor tell you to take it?" He said, "Every 4 to 6 hours is what it said on the script, right?" He says, "Well, if we need it, and we developed a plan," he says, "we're going to take it every 7 to 8 hours, right?" And so I remember that night, I rolled over onto my cast and my arm twisted inside of it. And it was absolutely probably the most excruciating pain that I had ever experienced. At the same time, I got this cyst on the inside of my armpit here that was just, it was like a golf ball, right? So I had all this pain going on, and I took one of the painkillers, you know, and I took that thing and I felt defeated. Being honest with you, I felt defeated. I said, fuck this, you know, I'm not going to do this. So it was about 10 to 12 hours later, and the pain was excruciating, you know, and I took it again. Took 4 of them, about a 10 to 12 hour window, and I started noticing that I was looking forward to my 10 to 12 hour window. And I said, I can't do this. And I got rid of them. What that did to me mentally, I remember going to a meeting in Irwin and sharing about it after I had taken one of those and being like, man, my disease is just on me, and it's telling me that you already used, and you might as well just go do whatever you want to do. You might as well just go flush the family down. You might as well just, the job, all that stuff, you know what I mean? Just go on this run. Like, that's where it was at. And I really had to rely on talking about that and talking about it and talking about it, you know? My disease had taken me to a point where it said, you already gave it all up, you know? But here's the deal. When I use, I don't stop. Right? I don't stop until the 25 are gone. Right? I don't do that. And then I go back and I try to get more, and I say that I lost them. I didn't do that. Okay? I got rid of them. So that was June this year. I'm going to share this with you. I plan to share this with you guys. In July, cast was removed, everything here. My daughter, I have 3 kids. My daughter's 17. I have another daughter that's 2, and a son that's 11. You know, true addict style there, right? My 17-year-old daughter, I got custody of her about 4 years ago, and she came to me and my wife, and she told us about something that happened when she was living with her mother. And her mom and some friends had went out and left her. She was 10, and a friend, the friend's daughter, alone to take care of the younger one, which was 2 or 3 years old. And the father of this, my ex's friend's, the husband, came home and raped her. And, during this time I was in active addiction. And I didn't know how to take that. I didn't know how to take that. I'm grateful for my wife. My wife was able to take charge, get her into some therapy, where she could talk about that situation. And my being, I allowed this whole situation to take me into complete self-centered wrath, rage, hurt, depression. I felt like I failed as a father. I felt like I should have been there. I felt like I wanted to do something. I remember talking about it to certain guys, and I talked to my sponsor about it, and he said, listen, you need to share about this. Perhaps you need some outside help. He put me in contact with some people that he knew had similar experiences, and I called them and I talked to them. But I wasn't willing. I wasn't willing to do anything to get into the solution, and it drove me just straight into this self-obsession. I became suicidal, homicidal. Phil asked me texted me. I was at work on August 19th to speak here. On August 17th and August 18th, both nights, I went down to my car after everybody was asleep. August 17th, I went down there. It's in the garage with the keys in my hands. Got in my car and decided I was going to turn it on and kill myself with carbon monoxide poisoning. My wife woke up and came down, and I went back to bed that night. The next night, August 18th, I heard something that I'd heard in these rooms over and over and over. Don't quit before the miracle happens. I felt like I was in a desperate place where there was no other solution. I talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, but once again, I was not willing yet to get into the solution. And Phil texts me, and I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, really? And I text my sponsor. I'm like, should I do this? He says, there's no question. There's no question. He says, yes, you need to do this. That's how God works in my life. So Phil texts me, and I'm like, well, I better get into a solution if I'm going to share, right? So some of you guys know what I do for work. I travel. I get to travel all over, and when I get to travel, I get to go to meetings outside of the outside of my area, outside of the state, all over the country, and it's pretty cool. I got people that I can depend on to meet up with me and stuff. In Arizona, Minnesota, Illinois, Louisiana. Those are some places that I frequent. And my sponsor told me, he said, listen, just go to a meeting and share exactly what's up. I'm like, okay. So I'm in Oklahoma, and I go to, I was actually in just outside of Oklahoma City, and I drove actually to Atlanta, Texas to go to this meeting because I just wanted to get away, because I'm like, I could be back in a meeting here, and I want to be around people that I'm never going to see again, and I share this stuff. And the moment that I shared, I felt a little bit relieved. My disease wants me to hide behind my insecurities, wants me to not share it with you, wants me to not tell you the truth. That's what my disease wants me to do. And when I share honestly and open, it tells me in my literature that it causes indescribable joy. Right? I want some of that. And I felt better. And the next day, I was in Arkansas, and I went to this meeting in Little Rock, and I shared about the situation that was going on. And it was this really intimate there's 4 people and then me, so 5. There was 5 of us there, and I shared. And this is how the God of my understanding works in my life. Every single one of those people had some experience with the same situation. I didn't feel alone. My disease wants me to be alone, right? Wants me to be isolated. This right here shows me that I can kill myself clean. You know what I mean? It's the behaviors. It'll back me into a corner. I started to get into a solution. I stayed and talked to a man after that meeting for a good, probably 45 minutes, and I got the hope just by talking to someone. Second step, hope, right? Open mind, bringing the problem, somebody else, and saying, "What's up? How did you do this? How'd you get through it clean? How'd you stop hurting?" Through that whole thing, I never asked my daughter, "How can I help you?" I wanted to help her so bad. And that was the last thing he told me. He said, if you want to help her, ask her. How can you help her? September 7th, my cousin, he just turned 40. We used together. And he sent me a message. I had kind of separated myself from him when I got clean. Didn't talk to him at all, and here and there he'd send me a message or something, and he sent me a message and he said, "Forgive me for this, but I want to be with verbatim of what he said. How did you get sober and stay sober?" That's what the message said, and I was like cringing. I was like, clean. And that wasn't what was necessary. You know what I mean? At that time, and what I told him was this. I said, "Listen, here's my phone number. Call me, and I'll share my experience with you." Okay. So September 7th was a Saturday. September 8th, he called me. I shared with him. He had never heard of 12-step fellowships at all. He had never heard of rehab at all. Never even considered it. And that night, he put a post on Facebook that said that he was going to go back to the hospital. He'd had some health issues, his pancreas and liver and kidneys. And after he got out of the hospital, he was going to go to rehab. I got that, that joy that comes from sharing. September 10th, he was unresponsive in the hospital. By September 15th, he was in hospice. And on September 17th, he passed away. He used like I did. This is a thing. It's a gift. He never got to hear the message. He never got to hear that message. That any addict can stop using, lose the desire to use, and find a new way of life. I'm grateful that I've got to hear that message. My gratitude with that is going to show with the responsibility that I take with my recovery. It says that there's no must in NA, right? But I believe that when I say I'm an addict, right? And that admission comes from my own lips, and I'm accepting that I have a disease that wants to kill me, right? That I have a disease of addiction. There's some responsibility behind that for me. It says that I am responsible for my own recovery. I'm responsible for that, and the responsibilities are simple, man. They tell me about them like every reading, and they tell me about them like every meeting that I go to. They're like, get a sponsor, right? Work the steps. Try praying. Be of service. Read the literature. I was excited, man, when I started reading the basic text here. I was excited because I really, you hear people talk about like it's a book written about me. I thought it was about me. You know what I mean? Like when I read Who is an Addict, I was like, yep. Just go down that list there. I could identify with your truth and with your honest sharing. Like I can identify with that. That admission, it has to come from my own lips, right? Guess, I don't speak well. I'm not a professional speaker. We don't have professionals, they tradition, right? Thank goodness. Yeah. Most of the time, I'm really not that great of a member of Narcotics Anonymous. But I'm getting better. My best efforts result in destruction, right? I always thought that I had the answers. I thought that I could use on Friday and go back to work on Monday. Like, I can't sit here and count the jobs that I lost because of that, my best thinking, right, always leads to another problem. Always. First thought wrong, right? My disease is wrapped up in like, I need this. It's from my disease. If I'm feeling that way, my disease is active. I have, and it's not yours. I'm going to keep it and I want more. That's where my disease comes in. I want what I want when I want it. Now. and I'll do anything to get it. That's my disease. That's when I hurt people. That's when I hurt myself. You know. So I have your solutions, your knowledge that you give to me free of charge, right? Once I come to you with the problem. Now I have a choice at that point, like I can take that knowledge and I can just sit on it and it just becomes information, right? Or I can put some application behind it. And when I apply it, you know, and put some action behind it, and I commit to the solution, you know, that's when I have a chance. That's when I have a chance. You know, I'm grateful to the God of my understanding. I'm grateful that I've been able to hear the message of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm grateful that I have been put in a place, because I tried everything. I tried going to church. I tried going to these Buddhist meditation things. I tried going to. I tried just the alcohol diet. You know what I mean? I tried all these different things to, you know, to function, right? And not have to come here, because I thought, yep, this time I'm going to smoke crack like a gentleman. You know what I mean? This time, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to smoke that shit like a gentleman, and I'm going to be a father, and I'm going to be a husband, you know, and I'm going to have a good job and a career. This is the stuff I'm going to do, right? And I just use again. I'd take that first one, man, and destruction. I'd cause a path of destruction. The steps, man. We talk about them, the steps being the solution. You know, that's the it's called a motto. I don't know what it is. Whatever. Anyway, that's what this is called. You know, the 12 steps are the solution, and I've found that to be true. You know, once I have a relationship with God as I understand Him, you know, then I can move into some other stuff, and I can really start to take a look. Because if I don't have like some connection, some way of a higher power, something out there, something to believe in, you know, my second step being the most important step in our recovery process. Because if I don't believe in it, it's not going to work, right? Then probably going through all that stuff isn't going to do me a whole bit of good. You know, I remember in and out of the program where I'd get a sponsor and he'd say, write this step, and I'd be like, okay, you know, and it's yes, no, and I wrote the step, you know, and there was never any honesty, like vulnerability. There was never any whole truth. And I get high again. You know, I was talking to someone just a little bit ago about it, and we were talking about sponsorship, and man, I remember having the same conversation with my sponsors at the time. I'd be like, I got high, I don't think that you're for me. You know, I was just having this conversation with Rob. He took off. He won all that stuff and left. All right. But you know, I was just having that conversation with him, and I remember doing that. I remember saying, "This sponsor's not for me." You know, he doesn't answer when I call him. You know what I mean? And I was calling him when I knew he was at work. Right? So I didn't really want to talk to him. You know, there's responsibilities that come with this stuff, and it's my responsibility. You know, I have a sponsor today. I know his work schedule. I know his work schedule. I know that he has a life. You know, I know that he has some peace. And that's what I want. That's what I want. You know, addiction. I heard this somewhere, man. I heard this from another guy in another league, and I've really hung on to this. He says, addiction is energy without grace. You know, and I found that to be true. You know, because when my self-will is active and I'm going through life and I'm trying to control and manipulate situations to my liking, I hurt people, I hurt myself, and shit always gets messed up. I feel dissatisfied. I get the thing that I want, and I still feel empty. When principle's behind it, and I have the ability to practice something, patience, whatever it might be, you know, the outcomes are more the right. It feels right. You know? My addiction wants me to run through people, places, you know, whatever it is, to get what I want. You know, recovery tells me that I need to practice something. You know, 12 steps. That's what it gives me. You know, I know that when I did my first 4th step, I was scared. I was scared because I knew that there were things that I didn't want to share. And at the end of the step working guide, it says, are there any secrets that you have that you may be holding on to? Right? Anything. And then there's another one in there that says, is there anything in here that's not true? Right? Yeah. There was both. When I shared that with my sponsor, and we talked about it, and we started looking at the exact nature of why I did certain things, I got a lot of, I understand. Me too. You're not the only one who's done that. Some of it was just laughter. You know what I mean? There's a joke that I heard. And it says, you know, I was so scared to tell my sponsor that I screwed this chicken. Right? So scared to tell him. But finally, I told him that I screwed this chicken. And you know what his response was? He said, did it die? I said, what? Sponsor says, well, the one I screwed died. You know, I don't feel alone in here, man. Like the stuff that I do, the stuff that I did, you know, you guys did it too. You know? I'm not less than. I started to realize that stuff, you know, when I shared it, you know. Vulnerability, man, that 5th step. Faith, intimacy, self-honesty. It's so, it is so important in my everyday life. See, I'm the kind of person, and I've recognized this, and my wife has definitely recognized this because she's told me that she's recognized this, is that I'm the person that, like, if something happens, I want to, like, instantly bottle up, keep it to myself, and just hope that it goes away, right? And she's really good, man. She's got that crowbar. She can get in there, you know. And I share with her, you know. I've never been able to share with any hostage. They were all hostages about any feelings that I had. You know, I didn't think the feelings. I thought that the feelings made me inadequate. I wasn't supposed to feel. I wasn't brought up like that. Really wasn't brought up where I couldn't share my feelings. You know, I had a good family, and you know, they taught me stuff. You know, they taught me about being honest and open and taking responsibility. You know, but when I do that and I share, you know, for example, with my wife about what's going on with me, man, it puts us on a level playing field. Intimacy. Like, that's real intimacy, is when I can be honest and open with somebody and share what I'm going through, what's going on, and tell the truth without fear of retaliation. She doesn't always understand. Doesn't always. But she's always supportive. I found that in here. I found that ability in here. And when I practice that stuff, it makes my life smoother. When I hold on to it and I put up that wall, that defensive wall, it comes out in every relationship that I have and every action that I do. It comes out with my children, Lay down to go to sleep with my wife and I turn over and, that's the kind of stuff that I do. So, and when we, after we got done doing my fifth step and going over that stuff, man, I don't want to tell you that I was just immediately honest and open with everybody. I'm going to tell you that I don't like a lot of people. I'm misanthropic. People is not, my people skills, my social skills suck. Let's just put it that way. But I was able to get more honest on deeper levels with other people. And I realized that when I felt a certain way or when I did something, that if I would just let somebody in and tell them about that it would ease the pain. And we took a list, we made a list of my defects, and really got into the exact nature of that stuff. And I realized, I'm not better than, I'm not greater than. There's parts of me that I just don't like, And my sponsor was quick to tell me, in situations like that I'm perfectly flawed. That we're all perfectly flawed. I don't know. Once I'm aware of a defect, right, it takes me back to that first step in the powerlessness and the way that it causes the unmanageability in my life. A lot of that solution, will come forward in my seventh step with humility. I see myself coming to act on something. I'm going to give you a situation that I struggle with currently right now is children, especially an 11-year-old son that I'm not going to mention his name. He is an absolute fantastic person. He had his first football game today. I broke my elbow when I was playing football with him out in our street. Yeah, we play football in the street. We don't have too big of a yard. But my patience runs thin. And I want to say, listen here, and there have been times that I've said that and I feel it afterwards. This is the seventh step at play in my life, is that I was 11 once. He's a kid. I don't like to do chores either. You know what I mean? I never like to do my homework. And I can take a step back and say, please God, just please don't let me say something that I'm going to regret. It might start with, please God, just help me to not kill him right now. You know what I mean? Because I get caught up in this, this is what I want to do. And sometimes those situations take me to where I create a wrong and it hurts so bad that I don't know what to do with myself. I lean on sponsorship. I lean on you. And I call my sponsor and he says, all right, what was the hurt and the wrong? And today, a lot of the stuff is things that I say. My sarcastic behaviors. And we'll trace that back to the defect that's at hand. Then we'll trace it back to anger, resentment, and fear. Then we'll see what part of dishonesty was at play in my life. And then I can see where the self-obsession is still active. It's kind of like a reverse engineer, of the step work. I was thinking about my daughter today. I get to go pick up my daughter from homecoming tonight. Her and her boyfriend. I don't like her boyfriend, but he's a good guy. Let's put it that way. Okay. He's a good guy. She could be dating me when I was 17, and she's not. He's a good person, and he treats her good. He has a little bit of a problem with my rules. That's okay. I don't really care. I get to set the rules right now, But when I think about like the list that I had to make, here's the thing. Like the list, I did not put myself first on the list. Okay, I didn't do that because it says in our literature that we can forgive others, right? It says we can forgive others. Hopefully, then be forgiven by others, and hopefully forgive ourselves. Hopefully. It tells me I need to forgive others, and hopefully others will forgive me, and at some point I can forgive myself. My daughter, my wife, the people that are closest to me, those are the people that have been on my list this time around. And I got to make some amends to my daughter at one time. She was on the list just basically for my not being there. Here's the deal. My daughter was born a C-section birth in 2002. I was high before the birth. As soon as the birth happened, the doctor handed her to me, and I walked out and I felt absolutely nothing. My mother was waiting outside the door. I handed her to my mom, and I went in the bathroom and got high. That's how I used. I have a 2-year-old now as well, that when she was born, I had some of the most indescribable joy, tears, love in my heart. My addiction robbed me of that. Me. So there was a lot of amends to be made to my daughter. And I remember this, I remember like this was yesterday, and this was about a year ago, and I had picked her up from a youth event that she was at, and it was just like right there, man. I felt something in my spirit that said, this is the time. This is the time. Now it says to contact our sponsor prior to doing this, but there is a part in there that says sometimes it's just the time and you feel it. And I had talked to him about it before. We had talked about it, and he says, you'll be ready when you're ready. And so we're in my car and we're driving back, and finally we got home. We parked the car in the garage. I said, listen, Tiana, I want to talk to you. And I told her, I said, listen, I know that I wasn't there for you. I know that I haven't been the best father. And I hope that someday maybe you can forgive me. And she looked at me and she said, Dad, I love you. Don't worry about it. I love you. Don't worry about it. That's good. I have a relationship with my daughter. That's one of the things that I wanted when I first got here, is I just wanted a relationship with my daughter. Some of the guys with several years clean told me make a list of the things that you want. They said this too. They said don't sell yourself short. All right? Most everything on that list has happened. My 9th step also comes with being willing to do my best to not repeat the harm. Like I said, I had a lot of hostages. When I got clean, I tried to fill myself up with women. I needed something to fill that void, so I thought. And I did some harm there. I did some harm. My amends, part of my amends in a lot of that behavior is the way that I treat my wife today. I don't fuck around with any girl's numbers. Ever. My wife can take my phone at any time. Anytime. She does. There's times that it dies. She needs to go somewhere. She takes my phone. I don't sit there and be like, oh shit. Don't open up Messenger. I don't have to worry about it. That's part of my mental process. My relationship with my higher power comes first. My relationship with my wife comes second. And then it's my kids. When I live in that balance of order, things can be pretty good. When I don't live in that balance of order, things can get pretty unmanageable. My wife and I, we like to go on little weekend getaways, right? And just go and enjoy ourselves. And you know, some of you are like, oh yeah, they're going to have sex. No, we're going to sleep. That's what we're doing. We're really going to sleep, and then we're going to wake up and we're going to go out to eat. And then we're going to come back and we're going to sleep again. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it's come to. But I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that. You know what I mean? Because during those times when we're alone and we get to talk to each other about like anything besides the 3 kids that are at home, you know, and really get to see, okay, catch up. What's going on in your life? You know, my wife's going back to work on Tuesday. I still don't know how I feel about that. She doesn't have to. I've been blessed with the job that she doesn't have to work. But she wants to. She wants to. And I'm like, well, what about the house? Who's going to make me dinner? You know, that's the shit that goes through my head. None of this stuff came out. First thought wrong, right? None of this stuff came out. You know, I was able to sit back and I was able to see how some of this was actually beneficial to other people. You know, she wants to use her degree. I still don't know what she's going to do. I still don't even understand the job. But she wants to use that degree. That's what she wants to do. You know, and who am I to tell her or control her from her passion and what she wants to do with her life? You know. The other thing is that right at the same moment when all this happened, Grandma, who had been struggling a little bit financially, had this job where she got a job where she would take these cars to the mechanics and have them fix it, and it just wasn't working out for her. She's going to come over, and instead of sending our little one to daycare, she's going to come over and hang out, and she'll be able to make some money that way. You know what I mean? So we were able to help people in this situation. You know, but my disease wants to look past that and say, who the is going to make me dinner? You know? Grandma's not making me dinner. She's a good woman. I don't like noodles. She makes a lot of stuff with noodles. He's going to clean my house. You know? Yeah. I guess I'm going to have to step up a little bit more. You know? I got spoiled. Right? Yeah. But how I treat her, you know, that's part of the amends that I make to where I've caused harm in the past. That's my living amends. You know. You know, 10, it frees me from the wreckage of the now, right? That's what it says in our literature. When my 10th step is fully being practiced by me, I say I'm sorry a lot. Right? Recovery really is about saying I'm sorry a lot. You know, admitting my humanness. When something slips out, you know, when I mistreat one of my children, or I say something that might have caused harm. When I say mistreat my children, it means being a little bit, you know, oh, your grades are down. Well, you're grounded until you graduate. You know, I'm known to say stuff like that. Maybe not to that extent, but like that's the things that come out. You know, I all of a sudden feel this like rage inside me, like how could you possibly fail chemistry that I never even got to? You know what I mean? I lay these expectations, right? And then stuff comes out, and I'm like, well, you're not going here, you're not doing this. You want a car? Nope. You know, and I got to come up, and you know, I one of the hardest things that I found early with this, and that my sponsor stressed is so important, is to say I'm sorry to my children. You know, because I want them to think, my egotistical self wants them to think that I am right all the time and I am perfect. And that's not the case. And I found that when I say I'm sorry, that it opens up to them to say that they're sorry too. They're more willing to admit their stuff to me. They're more willing to bring something so dramatic, such as getting raped, to me without fear of judgment. And that's good. It creates that bond and that intimacy with my children. My 11th step, it's about emotional balance for me. Meditation, emotional balance. I start to feel it. God consciousness is the spiritual principle that comes to mind when I think about the 11th step. I start to see a path. I start to see the way that I'm going. Here's the thing. Okay, when I'm running on self-will, but I know where I need to get to, okay, whatever it is, I'm going to throw a situation out there. I'm going to say that myself and my family are going to Kennywood, all right? And we're going to drive to Kennywood, and we know that there's a direct route to Kennywood. What I'm going to do is I'm going to divert over here, and I'm going to go to this store, and then I'm going to go to this place, and then I'm going to go to this place, and I'm going to take the long way around. When my 11th step is active and like I have knowledge of God's will and I'm praying for the power to carry that out, I can take a straight road. There might be bumps, there might be hurdles, there might be construction, you know, whatever it might be. There might be pain. Things are going to happen. But I have some direction. My path is narrowed. My 11th step really guides my 12th step. You know, it guides me to the places where I can carry the message. That's my responsibility. And I'm not done at that point. I'm not done. Once I've wrote on this 12th step, went over it with my sponsor, and am sponsoring people, I'm not done. If I only walk from here and 12 steps away, I'm not going to get very far. I'm going to get 12 steps away. I need to start doing it again. Take somebody with me. Take somebody with me. You know, my sponsor is clear. He says, you're going to work steps. You're going to work traditions. Otherwise, pretty much, he's not going to sponsor me because that's what he's there for, you know. And that's what it is with me, too. You know, we're going to work steps. We're going to take on the responsibilities. You know, you guys showed me what my responsibilities of an addict is, an addict in recovery. You know, my first and foremost is don't pick up, no matter what. Don't use. Don't use. No matter how big of a mess I make of things, don't use. There's a lot of hope here in these rooms. I'm grateful to be a member of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm grateful that I've been able to have the opportunity to find the 12 steps. I don't know where I would be if I hadn't. I have no idea. You know, I hear people say I'd be dead if I was using now. I don't know if that's the truth. I have no idea where I would be. But I've seen, you know, firsthand what happens to people when they stop going to meetings, when they stop calling their sponsor, when they stop praying, when they say, screw the steps, I don't need that. You know, I've seen what happens. And death is definitely a possibility. You know, I've heard people say, you know, if life were fair, I'd be dead. I still can be. When I stop doing this thing, when I stop believing in you, you know, it'll come back. Dereliction, isolation, degradation, jails, institutions, death. That's the promise. I'm just grateful. I'm really, really grateful. I'm grateful to the God of my understanding. I'm grateful to you guys for asking me to speak. And that's all I have.
All right.